I started in education a long time ago. Never going to get out of education, I hope. You're always learning. I went to Cornell Hotel School. It was a goal of mine always for life. I was born in Ithaca, New York, and Cornell was just right there up the hill. And I thought if you worked at Cornell Hotel School, I'd be cruising the world. I'd be on these great cruise ships, and I'd have lots of ports to call and visit every different culture around the world. It turned out it wasn't true. And it's a lot of food chemistry, a lot of work, and then you work on a cruise ship, and you make fake ice sculptures and put out big old buffets for people that waste a lot of food, and your shore time is limited. So I kind of slowly got away from that, but at Cornell I thought, well, what else can I explore? So I looked into arts and science, and they've got great programs there. Theater arts was awesome. I wasn't quite the right fit for theater arts, and then stumbled in totally by accident anthropology. Had some people I knew taking classes and loved it. It was the fit for me. So anthropology became every waking hour. But it's the hotel school may have worked a little better if I'd understood it better. So going into school, get an idea of what you're doing and what they offer, because I was thinking just, oh, cruise ships, it's a lot more work. The food chemistry you're studying all the time. In my sad memory, one day when I should have been in school, and Cornell is on Ithaca Lake, or Cuga Lake in Ithaca, and it was a beautiful day. And a friend of mine had a sailboat, and he said, you want to go sailing? I was crew for his boat. So I thought, oh, heck yeah, I'll just spend the day on the lake. Got down to the docks, we're loading the boat, and we're undoing the lines there. And I looked over, and there's my professor, Professor Rainsford from chemistry. He's getting on his sailboat because it's a beautiful day. And we go our different ways sailing, and I didn't think much of it. Next day in class, he said, well, everybody did well on the pop quiz yesterday, except Garry Kerr right there. He skipped it because he was sailing on the lake. And everybody looked at him like, how did he know? And he goes, because I was sailing on the lake. And he looked at me like I was bad. And I eventually took the course and the class and the exam and did okay, but it wasn't, I'm not Garen Smith. I don't live, breathe, sleep chemistry. So I was unfortunate for the experience, but it's funny to have a professor call you out in the middle of class as the only person who didn't take it, essentially who flunked. And that's something as faculty we try not to do. You never call students out in the middle of a class. It's just not, unless it's something very positive, and even then you want to be careful. So anthropology, I took everything they had, all the anthropology they had, and had great friends who I'd grown up with. Morris Bishop in linguistics, Ken Kennedy, fantastic physical anthropologist. He wrote a book, Reconstructing Life from the Skeleton, so a little bone, and you can look at it and say, this person was an Acapulco cliff diver, just from one cervical vertebrae in the neck. So fascinating things. You look at a bone and say, this person played violin, this person chewed a pipe, and this person shot a bow and arrow. This person's a right-handed baseball pitcher, from fragments of bone, just muscle attachments on bone based on wear during the life. And I loved his classes. And one day he said, if you want to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond instead of the tiniest fish in a big pond, you should go out to Montana, University of Montana, Missoula specifically. And that just lit me up. My mother was born in Paris, France. My grandparents were the editors and writers for the Paris edition of the Chicago Tribune. And she was christened in Notre Dame Cathedral at 2 years old. She spoke French baby talk. And they thought, we better get her back to America. So they moved from Paris, France to Ovando, Montana, of all places. And then the next dozen or so years, my mother grew up in Ovando, and then eventually got back to New York, married my father in Ithaca, and they stayed in Ithaca where I was, eventually came along and then went to Cornell. And every day, throughout my whole childhood, there was a Montana story. Oh, the snow was this deep. Oh, it was a one-room schoolhouse. Oh, and my mother was the best shot in the valley. She went out and got deer or turkey to feed the family. My grandmother could cook better than anybody because she worked in Paris and done a cooking column in Paris. So everything was Montana this, Montana that. So I thought, if Ken's right, I'll just check it out. And you think, well, I'll see how it feels. So I flew out here. The plane hadn't even landed yet. As the planes do, you fly over Missoula, go to the airport, and I felt I'm home. By the time it landed, I knew I was home. By the time I got in town, I knew this was the right place. Everything about it. The people here were incredibly outgoing, all the strangers even. They were welcoming. The town, the area, the animals, the wilderness. You're 100 steps away from the wilderness, so everything I wanted, needed was right here. And I thought I'd just take classes. My goal was to learn everything they had here. I was taking epidemiology, global epidemiology, geology, got a geology minor. I was taking sociology and criminology and every ology you could think of. And then anthropology still was the main focus. I was just kind of picking around anthropology. And then by a stroke of luck, or I think in her case, something she did, one of my faculty members broke her leg in the middle of winter. And she asked if I'd take over her class. And I said, sure. So I went, and each night I'd go to her house and we'd go over her notes. Next day I'd teach the class, go back to her house, go over the notes. And it was a ton of fun. I never thought I'd teach. I just was going to go to school. I never even thought of graduating. I just wanted to learn. My goal was learn as much as you can. And after a month or two of this, she was able to hobble back into class and said to the students, well, I might be able to make it back for the end of the semester. And the students said, no, stay home and take care of yourself. We love Kerr. Let him finish the semester. That was the first class 28 years ago. That led to 3 more and 5 more. By 21 years ago, I was teaching it full time. So I literally fell, or Sandy Smith fell and broke her leg, and that put me in anthropology. But I'm still, and if she's hearing this and she knows, I still believe she broke her leg on purpose to get me a job teaching. She saw some aptitude I didn't. She saw this goofy kid who wanted to learn and had some ability to catch people's imagination, to have infectious, contagious enthusiasm. And I didn't see it. I just wanted to learn. And then she kept more and more classes, and now, a couple dozen years later, 30,000 students later, I can't imagine anything but teaching. Teaching is about the only life you can have, but that doesn't mean you're not learning. Everything I do, I can bring in anthropology. Food, travels around the world, taking students to Tanzania to plant trees for Jane Goodall. Our last trip, we got in 675 trees planted for Jane Goodall in Tanzania, and I want to go back again. That's my 4th trip. I'd like to do a 5th trip. But whether it's chocolate for my food and culture course, whether it's Zika virus for my forensic course, whether it's a local case, Berry Beach or the Darren I can bring almost everything in the newspaper, almost everything in life, almost everything I've done, all the travels, all the countries, right back in anthropology. So, and I think we can program ourselves into where we're going to go and who we're going to be. I don't think that's real. We have ideas, but if you get closed-minded, you're not going to be happy. If you leave it open, and you just, anytime somebody says, could you, and you say yes, would you like to, yes, you eventually wind up exactly where you're supposed to be with a lot more experience. So I never would have thought I'd be here, and now I can't imagine being anywhere else, and everything I've done brought me here, makes me a better teacher. And some students say I'm the best professor. I'm not. But if they say who has the most fun, I do. I love teaching more than anybody else I've ever met, because you're in there and you're essentially telling stories to get their imagination, to get it in their mind, not memorize, but have them think. I don't want everybody to agree with me. If everybody agrees with me, we're all wrong. But if I can get students to think and it focuses into their life and they maybe take another course and try something else, I've won. And grades, I don't really worry about them that much. The best students are always going to get A's. The worst students aren't, but we can help them. We can, if you capture their imaginations, or just let them sit in a corner and give them an assignment that reflects what they want to do or who they think they are, they'll shine. And then you always get a second chance. In my classes, you always get a second, even a third chance, because things happen. I tell the students first day, something's going to happen. You're going to get sick. You're going to get a puppy dog. Your old dog, like mine, just passed away. You're going to start a relationship. You're going to end a relationship. School is not going to be the most important thing that day. You have a family emergency. Well, we'll get you through that. So don't just stop because one hurdle came up. And hurdles, they don't measure stress in positive and negative on a cancer scale. Stress is stress. So stress of a wedding is similar to stress of a funeral. So instead of us looking at, oh, this was a horrible, no, this was an event, it happened, we move on. And as long as you give students the ability to get through this, they'll be great. So our goal is to give them everything we can, help them, even when they don't ask, offer, and enjoy. If we go around being the most boring, unhappy people on earth, that reflects in our students and our lives. If we go on there with a happy face, even though you're in agony, I just tweak my knee and it's no fun walking. It's like, all right, today's a good day. I'm going to go out picking morels another day. This is beautiful here. So if you just put a happy face on, and look where we are. We're not in New Jersey. We're in Montana. Any direction, I'm in the woods in a few minutes. I'm fishing. I'm getting huckleberries. I picked a morel off of campus a few years ago, right in the middle of campus. So this place is magic. I can't imagine being anywhere else. So I lucked out. I'm the luckiest one here with the most students and the most fun.